Rob, after Europe, back to the Premiership and huge fixtures coming up now, but this one in particular against Gloucester, Derby, near neighbours almost, and right on the top end of the table.
It's right on top of us now, isn't it? That opportunity to get into the top four, to leapfrog Gloucester, get ourselves into the top four. The way the fixtures fall over the weekend, if we win, we'll get through the weekend and be in the top four, which could be incredible for us, because we have been a little bit wavery through the season, but we're starting to show a bit of form. We're starting to get collectively stronger. We're starting to get more guys on the training field. Things are starting to tick along. We've got a little bit of confidence about ourselves. Some of our senior players are really standing up and leading the way and driving the squad. Obviously, we've got the challenges, as Gloucester will be with a few players away in the training camps this week. But we get through that, and we get the result we need this weekend, and we can kind of start to look around and go, right, how are we going to build this season? What are we going to achieve? And it does feel different when you're in the top four, especially when you get in the top four this stage of the season. It does feel different, and I think that could be a really important thing for us to try and achieve.
What have you seen in the upturn? What is impressing you from the team, the way they've grown over, say, the last month or so?
I think they've just been very open about what they're doing, and I think that's really nice and very refreshing. They're talking openly now. They've come to terms with the fact that a few senior players are leaving, and they're talking about it openly as being a reason to work well and play well together. And I think that's really important. None of these things need to be kept in the dark. They happen. The more important thing is to be open about them and use them as motivation and use them as a driver. But on top of that, although we've got this driver of some older, very successful players leaving, and we want to give them a great send-off, you look at the young players coming through and what they're learning from these experiences and how they're helping to drive us as well. And it kind of feels like we're getting the benefit of both ends of the spectrum at the moment, and we've got to really work on that. Because without doubt, Gloucester are a very ambitious club as well. Gloucester have been progressing over the last 2 or 3 seasons in a very upward direction. They're going to be looking at this and going, right, we're not going to give up our top 4 spot to Exeter. We're going to cement our spot there. This is a very important game for them as well. And that's going to be the battle. It's going to be that battle between 2 teams who probably feel they're genuinely aspiring to getting in that top 4. And it's going to come down to, I'm not going to say it comes down to who wants it most, because we'll both want it, without doubt. But it's going to come down to who gets the most right on the day.
You go back to the year we won the double, and there was driving points in that. Are you seeing similar character traits?
If I turn around now and say yes, then everyone's going to expect us to win a double. I mean, what you're seeing, I think, is a collective group of players. And I think when you're open and you're honest about what you want to achieve and what the challenges are, and it's not going to be easy, but we're going to have to work hard. We're going to have to get through some tough periods. Not everything's going to go our way. You do start to feel a bit of strength within the group. And I think this might be in a lot of ways, this might be our biggest challenge of the last 3 or 4 weeks, because I think the group were excited about going to South Africa. I think they were excited about getting that home last 16. Now we've got to kind of get excited to getting back to a game that will help us down the line. The rewards aren't immediate. In Europe, the rewards come to you quite quickly. There's only 4 pool games, and the reward of that, where you qualify, actually comes to you quite quickly. Over the Premiership, the rewards come a lot slower, and you have to work at them for a longer period of time. So what we have to do now is just kind of roll up our sleeves and make sure we're ready to go now.
The old adage of you've got to be in it to win it. You're in 3 competitions now, so heading into 2023, you're in a great position, aren't you?
We are, and yet, it's like anything. You can go over a 3-week period and shoot yourself in the foot in all competitions, and we're also in that period as well. So we've got to really, like I say, it's nice to be excited about a season, and that's what we are. This is an exciting season for us, and there's a lot of things in our hands, and we've got to decide to stand up and talk about them and be honest about them and decide to take them.
How much of a hindrance is it having those boys go away to international camp for a few days and then have them come back in? Does it affect training in a huge way, or are you used to it now?
I think the challenge is once you've got momentum, it's the last thing you want to happen, and we've probably got a little bit of momentum, and so obviously it feels like bad timing. But traditionally we've dealt with it pretty well, and we've got to have an expectation. If you want to be a successful type team, you have to deal with this well. We have done in the past, and you can't run away from it. It's coming, it's going to be there. We've got to decide to deal with it well. Most of these things you can be pretty grown up about and talk about them and say they're going to be a challenge, and you face them or you don't. And that's a little bit where we are. It is a bit disruptive. We have got some England internationals missing, but we've got Jack Noel here at a time we wouldn't normally have. He's taken on a great leadership role within the club within the team over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, especially, and having him around will be a benefit. So it's not been all bad. Some of it's been pretty good. Like I say, some of our young players are absolutely thriving, and we've got a nice solid group at the moment who are training well and talking well and wanting to achieve together.
Aside from Henry Slade and Sam Simmons, the rest of the squad looks pretty good, and team news for the weekend is positive.
Yeah, pretty good. Obviously, Johnny Gray's back into proper kind of training now after a couple of weeks of kind of very light training and trying to kind of assess where he was. After it was a funny one, we're not quite sure whether it was a head knock or a necky whiplashy type thing, but it just was creating some issues. But he's had a very positive consultancy appointment in the last couple of days. That's really clarified the situation and helped him a lot. So he's up and running, was in full training yesterday, which we haven't had for a couple of weeks. Chris did take a knock, did take a couple of bangs at the weekend, so we're monitoring him. But outside of that, it's a pretty available and strong group, and we're looking forward to getting on the pitch.